Captain on the bridge.
Hori Captains, we are back on the bridge, and today, yes, we will be going over our favorite moments from Starship Picard Season 3, Episode 5, Imposters. Captains, before we do so, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe here to the YouTube Bridge, as we're always on the lookout for fellow captains where we can share our love and passion for things Star Trek. Now, with that said, here we go. Captains, this season so far has just been amazing. I will just say that flat out. I know I've been silly with my scoring, giving I think 2 or 3 episodes like 9.99, but let's be honest here. I've gotten the feels. If it's nostalgia carrying me, then please carry me all the way to the end of the season, because I do not mind it. So what we'll do is quickly go over our favorite parts here. We even have an honorable mention this time, something that we haven't done before, but we'll do it now. But because it was such a good sort of part of the whole episode, I felt that it was good to mention. So we'll start off here with the honorable mention, which is Krinn. Actually, this whole thing right here, this scene right here, given nods, of course, to very nostalgic characters. So Morn of Loria, Brunt of Ferenginar, and Thadian Okana of Omega. So again, this was all about Krinn. Krinn was the total sort of surprise for me. I don't know who he was, but I thought he did such a really good job. And I'm not sure what it was. If it was the way he talked, because he's the Vulcan. He's the bad Vulcan. Not to say we haven't seen bad Vulcan before, but at least crazy Vulcans. But this character, he spoke to me. You know, he really actually filled all of the scenes that he was in with his sort of presence. And he still even brought the whole Vulcan logic and reasoning to it all. And I enjoyed it. I really did. His scenes with, of course, Worf and Raffi there was really good. And the whole, it's the way that he spoke and the way that he carried. An honorable mention, one of my favorite moments here. I wouldn't say, like, in terms of impact, it just had something, but not as the other ones. But this had a surprise impact. There you go. That's the word that I'm looking for. And, you know, he even had his own little moments there of clapping. You know, I think this is one where he was saying, you know, Starfleet gives you a clap or something. But he was very good in the deliverance of his lines, the way he filled the screen. I thought it was really good. So there is that. And of course, with our favorite moments now, we will carry on. And at number 4, we have to give it to Captain Liam. Now this scene was totally awesome, of course, when it all started with Riker giving back his command, and right then and there, he went back to just being a complete prick. Now, again, I've said this before, my relationship with Shaw here from the beginning of the season till now has been, I don't like you, please don't die, to I like you, to why are you being a prick again, you know? But I think the explanation of his background in Wolf 359 not only was a nostalgia nugget, of course, but the way he acted it, the way he told it, through his expressions, and it just really, it makes sense. It makes sense. He has a thing for Picard. He does, or not a thing, but he doesn't like him. He does not like him. And even going so far as just being so condescending and sarcastic in his answers, but it works. It really does work. And here he is with 3 legacy characters, Picard, Riker, and Seven, and he's standing on his own. And, you know, him doing the whole christening of Seven back to being reinstated, that was awesome. And then, you know, I'm gonna leave you 3 here to get your guys' story straight. And again, just walking away, just walk. And let me say that the amazing part here is all of what happened in the last episode just happened. Obviously, there was repairs happening, so I'm not sure of the time frame in between. But they were traveling, of course, to Federation space, and he had a cane in there, and now he doesn't have a cane. He's all better, so that he got fixed up pretty good. But again, him standing up to them is just awesome, and that's why I keep saying I would be totally up for a spin-off show of just Liam, really, to be honest, just Liam, and of course him in command of the Titan. I think it can happen, but that's maybe another discussion for another day or another video. But this elevator scene just was the best. Him just humming and just dropping all those hints of who dropped the saucer on Viridian and who went hooked up with the Baku and all that. Just the time for how he delivered it was everything, almost like I feel like what we were all thinking of, that he would just bring up, and he did. And his expressions, again, his expressions are just great. I loved it. But again, then he does a full turnaround, of course, now sees the situation is going, and of course he goes back to, okay, all right, you're back. So again, honorable mention. I couldn't not mention him in not an honorable mention, a favorite. I could not go to this sort of favorite episode here or parts of the episode without mentioning the joys I got from his scenes in this episode. So very well played, I think, for Captain Liam. Next up, we have, of course, Worf. Yes, finally, I felt that this was one of his strongest episodes, obviously, because it was just it just feels like a slow introduction. And I'm not necessarily the biggest fan that he's paired off with Raffi, but it is what it is. I think, Raffi is being, for me, how Liam is sort of standing on his own in the presence of legacy characters. Raffi is just being overshadowed by Worf. It's just plain and simple. That's how I feel. I think, though, he's just doing a great enough job when it comes to obviously being Worf and his Worfisms. It's great, and I love how he is trying to mentor her, and really was mentoring her throughout the whole process when he was the handler when he was not known to her. But I loved one of my favorite lines that he said is, "Do not assume what I have or what I have not sacrificed," or something to that effect. And again, his delivery of his lines, it's just, his Worfism is there, and I love every scene that he was in here. Again, very, very just a matured, even more matured version of Worf, and I totally love it. And what really got me in this episode with Worf was, of course, the fight between Worf and Raffi when they were forced to fight by Krinn. And of course, they do decide to fight, and ultimately Raffi got the hint that he's got to make a sacrifice, which is, getting stabbed. And when he said to her, today is a good day to die, and he had that little die. Again, it was so good, well delivered. Just the way that he delivered it in his character, obviously Worf, was great. And I hope that now, with half the season in, we're gonna obviously get the crew together now. I was told, I think around episode 6, that they're all gonna be reunited. So I want to see how that happens, and then what type of role he plays. And I hope he doesn't get denied by Picard like a million times, but we'll see how that goes. And of course, I want more Worfisms. I have sound commands on Twitch where he's like talking about his, do you want sugar with your chamomile tea? And definitely will be borrowing a couple more of his lines, because he's just making it so, how should I say, such a memory trip for me to just watch him, because he just slipped right into the character. Like, he didn't miss a beat, but he's just more funny, and again, just more Worfism, and I love it. And even when he was sort of pretending, of course he died, got better at Krinn, he talks about a new technique. It was all good. I totally loved it. So next up in my second favorite moment here, we have to, there's just no doubt, we have to give it up to the ships. Like, I've said it before, and it even started all the way back in Lower Decks, Stranger Worlds. The respect they're giving the ships here is just phenomenal. And of course, the Titans were getting a beauty shot here. I didn't really necessarily like this scene, not because of the Titan, because these repair bots that we saw in Discovery, sure, yeah, okay, that's how you do it. I get it, and it's a thing now. It's canon. Triz, get over it. But it's still a state. But the beauty of the ship, I love it. It just looks so good. I cannot wait to get this in Star Trek Online, and I hope day one I'll be able to get this. But it is just a beautiful, beautiful ship. Again, huge shout out to Bill Krause, a friend of ours here of the channel. And of course, speaking of ships, we got the new ship here, the Intrepid. And this is a very unique design. The deflector in the aft there of the secondary hull, if that's what you can call it. I think we had a design like that in Star Trek Online, and which is actually now canon. It's the Pioneer. It's in the credits or the ending credits. It's like a pretty much almost the same style type. You know, it has a saucer, the tuna cells, and then just the secondary hull hanging off of the saucer. But it's a very unique looking ship. And again, huge shout out to Bill. We actually knew this was coming. Now, when we had done that video of the new ship, we already had that sort of concept art. We're going to go do a video of it. Now, what surprised me of this ship was the size. Now, we did a video, of course, again, going over the sizes of the ship in his fleet, in the Tycho fleet, Bill's fleet. And I thought this would be much smaller than the Titan. Now, it could just be how the camera was panning around, but this looks like, if not the same, about maybe even bigger. Like if you could just compare the nacelles. And one of my sort of gripes of this is using the same style nacelles. I get it. Modular, quicker to, you know, pinch out ships. Sure, I get it. But a very unique design. Now, the one thing I'll mention later is I just noticed it before we did this recording, but it's, again, it looks normal when you look at it from that angle, from the fore angle, like from the front, but it's the side. It's very unique, and I totally love it. Of course, there's a little shittle again. There again with the same nacelles. They're just scaling it, but then we get a nice little shot here of that little shittle going past the Titan and heading to, of course, crashing into the Intrepid's nacelle to try to buy Picard time. Again, from this angle, it looks like a regular kind of ship, right? But the uniqueness of it, of course, is that design of the deflector hanging off. But again, a great just sense of happiness for Bill for getting both of his ships, not only both of his ships on screen, together in a scene or multiple scenes. Mind you, they have to fight each other, but it is what it is. It would have been nice to kind of see who was captaining this ship. Now, I know, of course, we know it's a changing, but it would have been nice to see who it was. I thought this was the ship that Geordi was actually going to be on. But, of course, it didn't show. So, again, that's the sort of scene that we saw in one of the trailers there of that ship. And that's when we made that first video. Again, we saw that little piece of the deflector there. So we thought it was one of other Bill's design there. But, again, just the great respect that they're showing these ships as characters of the show. Love it. You know, you have almost 3/4 of the show gone by up to this point. You saw one shot of the ship, 2 shots of the Titan, and of course this. And then they kind of ended off with this grand sequence of these 2 Federation ships going at each other, or about to go at each other. But now this is the scene where when I was putting this together, one, of course, it reminded me of the shield facings coming up like from the Wrath of Khan movie. But and even the outline itself almost looks like it. But I didn't notice that there was cutouts there on the pylons. So that was kind of cool. But what, and comment below, captains, if you all know what I'm talking about. So there was a show when I was a kid that it's called Captain Power. And I think there was another sort of lines after that. But one of the toys that they had there had a handle that was built below the ship that you can hold. And this is kind of what it reminded me of. Now, in this angle, it looks pretty cool. I think it's a great, unique design. I personally would like to see how they're going to release it in Star Trek Online. But the other thing I took away from this was, of course, the shield visual there is a bubble. So usually what we've been seeing so far is the shields that were sort of conforming to the ship. Here we see a shield bubble. So it's kind of all over the place here. Not that doesn't mean anything, like they can do whatever they want, but it's just something I thought was pretty cool in terms of that shot there, seeing that. So I did, again, it reminded me of that, where not even, and you know, it wasn't limited to Captain Power. I think G.I. Joe maybe had something like that, where you would hold the ship, not by the ship itself, but it would have a handle hanging off. But yeah, pretty cool. Again, huge shout out to Bill to getting his both of his ships here on screen, but again, couldn't help but take this shot, of course, of this ship kind of rising. And someone mentioned on Twitter that it looked like ever seen an angry ship, and I kind of got that vibe. But again, you know, if you would have shown me this ship in this angle, I would have looked like it was a normal ship. Nacelles, saucer, neck, secondary hull configuration. But no, it is a very unique looking ship. And the one thing, I'm waiting for one ship to fire quantum torpedoes. They have fired nothing but photon torpedoes here, and please just fire one quantum torpedo. That's all I want. That's all I want. Again, this ship being the size that it looks like to be, which is a little bit bigger than Titan, I thought it would be arming quantum torpedoes. Now, having said that, quantum torpedoes are more stronger than photons, so of course I guess they want to save that, and they of course want to probably just disable the Titan, of course, because they're going after Jack. But again, just a very cool sequence here with the Intrepid chasing the Titan and actually even firing on it. Here we get another shot of it there, and again, this reminded me of that handle of that toy from Captain Power. So again, we see that, then we see a little deflector there in the back, and again, pretty cool shot. Thought it was, again, the respect they're giving the ships is just so cool, because that's one of the reasons why I love Star Trek, if not the reason why I love Star Trek, is the ships and the unique designs, and then you add this, which is a unique design. So again, can't help but not love it. And of course, we have that shot again of the Titan going into warp. And of course, this brings us to our the feelZ moment, the favorite that really just stood out and really got us. It really did. The reintroduction of Ro. Now, how they played off of each other, Ro and Picard, like this whole play off of each other, that was the thing for me. That's what got me. I was invested in how, of course, the betrayal that Ro did to Picard, and that was Picard's sort of attitude at the beginning, but then how quickly did it soften. And you know, we see here the build up to that, and I think it was beautifully done. And to bring her back, and I don't think there was an inkling that anyone knew she was going to be there, but the actress, I said this in the review, that I don't really have a connection with Ro, but she was always a tough cookie, and other than that, I never could attach her. Plus, after that, of course, she left, right? But having said that, here we saw a total vulnerability, not only from Ro, but also Picard. But yeah, this whole storyline between Picard and Ro, this was so good. From the interrogation, from what they were talking to, Picard, of course, bringing out his grievances about what happened in the past, and then Ro being, you know, how she got back. She clawed her, and Picard said she clawed her way back. But then, of course, you know, again, just the back and forth between them was just so beautifully done. And which brings us, of course, to the moment that really got me was this sequence when Ro asked Picard to step in the holodeck, and of course explained the reason why she needed to see if Picard was compromised. But that's what brought out the moment between these two that I could just never, I didn't even know I needed this moment. To be honest with you, Captains, I did not know. And when it happened, it took me by surprise. It really did. It was just right after this. And it was like, how dare you? And then all of a sudden, you know, Picard saying, you betrayed me, and said, this is the start of it. When Picard said, you broke my heart. And, you know, Ro saying, and you broke mine. That, the feelz got me. And it was such a wholesome moment. And again, a moment that I didn't know I needed. And even Picard's response to that, well, if that pain tells us anything, is that, you know, we say who we are. And that was such an honest moment, I thought, between the two. And again, just the way Ro, you can tell all of her sort of, you know, that wall that people put up was gone. It was torn down, and to the point where she's actually the one that buckled first and put down her phaser. So again, beautifully done. Even Picard did awesome in these scenes, and it's like they reconnected right away. Now of course, this is where the handoff comes from, and we know now she's the one doing the investigation. She's the one that sent Worf and Raffi. But of course, we got all these nuggets along the way where, of course, the mention of Janeway and how she was trying to find out who was what, but it was, again, overall just great. And then you have this moment. This was such a wholesome moment when she gave Picard her earring, and which of course they talked about, or Picard noticed when they were first being interrogated by Ro. But this, just look at her, just whatever defenses she had up, it's gone. It's gone. Now she's in protect mode. Now she's trying to buy time for Picard, and it's all in that expression that she did. It's just the way she went from like tough cookie to just I'm sorry, or that really got me, and that spoke to the great writing. I feel the acting of course, the actors, and just the delivery of this moment with the music and everything. It was just so good. I have to give this my favorite moment. And again, from crying to smiling, to just, again, she knows now what she has to do, and give her props. I give her props for how she really tried to give her time. And there's the earrings there, and it was kind of a sad end to Ro. Just kind of, again, a moment I didn't know I needed, that she had, that would come back and all of a sudden be taken away in the same episode. But just beautifully done between the two. Just bravo. Even me watching this 3-4 times, it got me every time. It really did. And with Picard just ending it off, just in that expression, it was really nicely done. I have to say that definitely was my favorite moment from this episode. And so far, Captains, this whole season, now we're halfway through, I really don't want it to end, and I wish that something comes out of this. I really do. Whether it's a Liam with the Titan 7 spinoff, maybe even a Worf, that'd be great. I don't think Picard definitely would. I think Picard, once he's done with this, he's obviously done with Picard. Maybe just making some special appearances, whatever here. But I wouldn't mind Geordi having maybe a series with his daughter there from the Titan. So however this plays out, I hope something comes from this, because it's so good. And I understand that there are people who don't like it. That's fine. I always say this, like what you like, as long as, and hate what you hate, but don't hate on the person or the captain liking something that you don't. I don't think that's fair, because there's a lot of Star Trek out there, and there's enough Star Trek there that we all can share. And if it's not your cup of tea, then it's okay, but for me, I've highly enjoyed this. This is even topping, of course, Strange New Worlds, as much as I love Strange New Worlds. Now, a lot of comments that I've gotten, especially on stream, is why couldn't we have gotten this in the first season? Could you imagine how could this evolved, I should say, to the third season? I feel like I would have been way more invested, but it is what it is. And like I said, having this now for me, and hopefully it tying it off in a bow, would be just the greatest send-off to the TNG crew, in my opinion. And I'm here for it. So we still have a lot to look forward to. We haven't seen Geordi yet. We haven't seen Lore. We haven't even seen Moriarty yet. And then, of course, we need to see the comeback of Vadic. We have to see how the Changeling plot plays out. And then, of course, how that's all going to sort of come together on Frontier Day. So looking forward to seeing that. Now, there's a YouTuber out there who said they watched the last episode of 8, 9, 10 or 7, 8, 9, 10. And they said, them being a fan of TNG, they were satisfied with it. And if that's the feeling I get, I'm happy. If all the shows at this point carry on the tone of the first 5 to the last 5, Captains, I don't know. I'd have to almost give this like pretty much a perfect 10, because again, I'm here for it. The characters, the ships, the story, I'm invested in everything, and I'm enjoying it, because I wouldn't be making videos. I wouldn't be throwing out my 2 ECs, spending this time doing this stuff if I wasn't invested. But I am, and I'm glad they're doing this. So looking forward to more captains, sharing with you, of course, not only the reviews, but also my favorite moments. So do us a favor, like the video, comment below, let us know what your favorite moment was. And then, of course, we can discuss it in the comments below. Of course, captains, also subscribe here to the YouTube bridge, and we will leave it on this note.
Live long and prosper.